Welcome to Wrestling Wednesdays with Mare. This is where casual fans become slightly obsessed fans as we dive headfirst into the wild world of pro wrestling. Expect hot takes, deep dives, and maybe, just maybe, you might learn something and enjoy doing it. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. We are a day late. You would not believe it. I have recorded this video no less than 5 times. This is number 6. Because of technical difficulties, I don't even have my usual monitor in front of me. I'm usually a 2 monitor girl. Tonight, we're rolling with just the laptop because I can't get it figured out. Um, all right. So for my first week of the deep dive, I am going to be talking about the history of the WWE. Disclaimer here, guys. If you're not a huge wrestling fan or you're just a casual fan, I may spoil some cool things for you because below there's wrestling lore and just so much history. And if you haven't watched a lot of it, some stuff might get spoiled. So spoiler alert. Also, second disclaimer here, guys. Um, I am the casual fan in this podcast. So as much as I researched and tried to make sure I have all my facts straight, just know that my history is probably all confused. So this is going to be more of a laid back, casual, you know, breakdown of the history of the WWE. And then I'll probably highlight my favorite parts because, come on, why not? This is my segment. All right, guys. So the history of the WWE, it's wild. There is so much to it. Let's just dive right in, guys. So currently, WWE is the biggest wrestling company in the world. You probably know it from its 2 flagship shows. They're every week. We've got Monday Night Raw, which historically has always been on Mondays. And then we've got SmackDown. Currently, it's on Friday nights. I think it's also been on Wednesdays and maybe Thursdays. They also host regular pay-per-views. They used to only have certain ones every year, maybe like 4 or 5 different ones, but now they have a pay-per-view just about every month. The biggest ones being WrestleMania, which is like the Super Bowl, a sports ball, no, Super Bowl of wrestling. It historically has always been one night, but in most recent years, it's now 2 nights because there are just so many matches. Um, SummerSlam is another really big pay-per-view they usually do in August. It's actually going on this weekend. It's going to be a 2 night event as well. And then there's my favorite pay-per-view, the Royal Rumble. It is so much fun. It's basically like now there's a men's rumble and a women's rumble. So there's a handful of regular matches, and then there's the Royal Rumble. Typically, it's 30 people, and they come in every 90 seconds or so, and you get eliminated by being thrown over the top rope. And so basically, at the end of it, the last man standing, or woman, because there's a woman's one, right? Is the winner, and they get to go on and challenge for like they get to go on and have a championship match at WrestleMania. And after Royal Rumble, typically it's like WrestleMania season. I think they call it the countdown to WrestleMania or the road to WrestleMania. Um, Another big pay-per-view is Survivor Series. I don't know as much about that one. I mean, I've seen a bunch of them, but I don't know. It's a big one. Elimination Chamber. That one has I don't think they used to do that one. It's been more in the 2000s that Elimination Chamber started. And then Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is another one. It's like a handful of guys wrestling a match, and it's like the briefcase. That's the Money in the Bank briefcase where a contract is. And you can cash in that contract at any time for a chance at the championship. And it's a fun match to watch. I think I've been to a Money in the Bank. Maybe it was a TLC. It was TLC. So WWE's roots go way back. As I said, they've had many name changes. That was just kind of like a brief synopsis of the company, kind of as it stands today, but there's more to it, and I'll get to it a little bit down the road here. But the WWE was founded in 1953 by Jess McMahon, which is Vince McMahon, Vincent Kennedy McMahon's grandfather. Me and Steven had a huge talk about this. You may have seen my reel where I was like confused and I was talking to him about it. But anyways, all that to say, it started in 1953 and it was called the CWC, or the Capital Wrestling Corporation. This company ran from 1953 to 1963. They were originally part of the NWA, or the National Wrestling Alliance. They split off and became the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, or the WWF. Um, the cool thing about this era is like this kind of where you start to see like stars. You know what I mean? There was Bruno Sammartino, who to this day holds the record for a championship title. He held it for 7 years straight. Then we've got superstar Billy Graham, who is somebody that inspired Hulk Hogan a lot. And if you saw superstar Billy Graham, you would be able to see that. Then there's Bob Backlund, Captain Lou Albano, and Classy Freddie Blassie. There are many others at this time, but those are kind of like the big ones. They worked with other territories and helped grow the popularity of wrestling nationwide. In 1979, Vincent K. McMahon, which is the Vince we kind of know, took over by buying his father's shares of the company, and he changed the name to World Wrestling Federation, or WWF. And that name stuck for a really long time. So 1979 to 2002, that is, let's see here, 21 years? Listen, this is not a math podcast, all right? If you know the answer, you can just read it. So Vincent K. McMahon rebranded it the World Wrestling Federation, or WWF, which is kind of the wrestling company we more know. It exploded into pop culture. Vince had this vision of like being the juggernaut of wrestling, and he did WrestleMania, like I said, the Super Bowl of wrestling. And WrestleMania really did incorporate like pop culture into wrestling. Like at the time that Vince McMahon took over the WWF, is when it kind of exploded into pop culture. There was Mr. T, Aretha Franklin. So many stars have been on WrestleMania. I mean, we had Ray Charles, Cyndi Lauper. Over the years, there was like that Baywatch girl, Pamela Anderson was on it. Jenny McCarthy. Um, so many stars. And also, the wrestlers themselves became more famous. So we saw Hulk Hogan, who is probably arguably the biggest star in wrestling history. There was Andre the Giant, Rowdy Piper, Jesse the Body Ventura. I mean, I could go on and on. Um, Vince McMahon managed to secure TV deals. Um, Honestly, WrestleMania 42 is coming in 2026, and it's still going strong. Like I said, there are even stars like Jelly Roll is on right now, Logan Paul. They've branched out into YouTube stars. Logan Paul's a YouTube star, and they had I Show Speed on Royal Rumble. It's just, it really grew in that time period. We also saw the we also saw the launch of Monday Night Raw, the Monday Night Wars, because WCW had their Monday Night Nitro. We also had the Attitude Era. Attitude Era was kind of like the answer to the NWO, and it was my favorite time in pro wrestling history. You had the introduction of the Mr. McMahon character, who was a corrupt boss, an idiot. He had cronies. He was always trying to, his character was always trying to run the company like into the ground almost. And then there was a feud between him and Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was notoriously like a stick it to the man kind of person. Just not a rule follower and a really fun and wild character. There was the one time where he sprayed beer all over Vince McMahon and his cronies. Like he drove a beer truck into the venue, sprayed them with beer, and Vince McMahon was like swimming in it. It was just such a great time in wrestling. There was the wild antics of Degeneration X, the whole Suck It thing. I think that they single handedly made Suck It like popular. There was also legendary stars like The Rock, Shawn Michaels, who was also in DX. The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak was during this time became legendary. There was Mankind, his other like alter ego Dude Love, and Cactus Jack, all three, same guy. Um, there were iconic moments also during this time of the Attitude Era. There were iconic moments too at this time, like Hell in a Cell with Undertaker and Mankind. Undertaker threw Mankind off the top of the cage and into the announce table. And then at some point, they get back up on the cage, and Mankind falls through. And the end of the match, he's like gone, right? He's really not there. He's just been beaten to oblivion, and his tooth is hanging out of his nose. Like, it was just such an epic match. There was also a match with Edge. I guess it was a ladder match or tables, ladders, and chairs match. I can't remember. But the Jeff Hardy was hanging midair, like holding onto a title belt in the air. It had to at least have been a ladders match. And Edge was at the top of this huge ladder, and he spears Jeff Hardy in midair, and they both live to tell the tale. Like, I don't know how um they survived that era. And they still wrestle to this day, which is the crazy thing. I could honestly do an entire episode just on the Attitude Era. I hardly even touched or scratched the surface. Like China was at the time the only woman to be in a Royal Rumble. I believe she did it twice also. Um, it was just incredible. And it was very edgy and, very rated R. You would see lots of, bikini matches and bra and panty matches. It was very 90s, Um, the next era started in 2002 and it's through the present. WWF became the WWE or the World Wrestling Entertainment. After a legal battle with the World Wildlife Fund, you may recognize it. It's that black and white logo with the panda. This marked the start of the ruthless aggression era. It still had its edge, but it was kind of like a new chapter. Um, some key highlights. We finally see Undertaker's streak get broken. Um, Brock Lesnar was one of the main wrestlers there. I won't say any more about that. Raw and SmackDown, they split into two distinct brands. So they also, I think at the time, did drafts then. So you get drafted to Raw or SmackDown. Eddie Guerrero, like, became a massive star. He got over. And then he also passed away tragically during this era. The same thing with Chris Benoit. He also died. Let's not even get into the Chris Benoit story. You can watch it on Dark Side of the Ring, though. New stars emerged, new fresh young talent like John Cena, Batista, Randy Orton. They debuted pay-per-views like Elimination Chamber, Money in the Bank. They eventually shifted though to a PG era and toned down that edginess. And they also introduced their third brand, NXT, which was a developmental brand. and a breeding ground for future stars. Most recently, WWE was purchased by Endeavor, the parent company of the UFC. They merged into one powerhouse under TKO Group Holdings. And so they now run more similarly to the UFC. The length of the matches and the amount of matches in a show has changed, and I foresee it becoming more and more like UFC. They also changed pay per view or PPV to PLE or premium live event. So just little changes like that. I do still like the direction that it's going. Of course, I'm enjoying the bloodline with, Roman Reigns, and he's the tribal chief. Um, Paul Heyman, I have like fallen in love with him during this era. He just comes in, he has a shtick, and he does it well, and I love it. It's just awesome. And it's kind of fun to see how things are changing, and it's kind of cool to see them integrating other companies into the fold. So working with TNA is kind of cool, and AAA. It's changed a lot, and it's really good. And I mean, that's pretty much it for the history of the WWE. Like I said, super concise, kind of off the cuff. I mean, I have my notes here in front of me, but um, yeah, yeah, it was really fun doing a little bit of research and talking through some of this stuff with Steve. Um, and I look forward to doing more. I will be doing the WCW next week. I believe there are documentaries out about it, the rise and fall of WCW and things like that. But you can catch us every Wednesday on all social media platforms and YouTube. You can catch us every Friday anywhere you get your podcasts. We occasionally post to YouTube. Um, and like, subscribe, tell your friends, your mailman, your grocery clerk. Just tell them about us. It's